Hi there, Honors Bio. This is Mrs. Kozian, and these will be your video notes, Unit 3, Video 2A. This is the first part of organelles, or eukaryotic cells. Okay, so this is Unit 3, Video 2A. Okay, here's some of the key vocabulary you're going to be seeing. This isn't all of it, but it's just some of it. Okay, you guys are going to be looking at organelles, different types of organelles. Right here, you can see all these in the cell. I'm talking about structure, like things like cytoskeleton, things that help to keep a cell healthy and clean. Okay, so the first definition here that you guys is an organelle. What is an organelle? It means a small organ, basically. These are the little tiny units inside a cell that each have their own function. They can't survive on their own, but they do have a small membrane around them that helps to keep them from dissolving inside the cell. They are not considered a cell by themselves, but they are very important for the function of a cell. All right, your cell membrane. Now we're just going to touch on this very quickly because the last part of the unit we talk about the cell membrane in much more detail. It's the flexible barrier around all cells, prokaryotic, eukaryotic, plant, animal cells. They all have a cell membrane. You couldn't call something a cell if it didn't have a cell membrane. It's semi-permeable, which means if you have permission to do something, think that lets you do something. To be semi-permeable means that it lets some things in and out of the cell. It's mostly made of steroids, proteins, and carbs. Remember, steroids are a lipid. And it's made of what we call phospholipid bilayer. We talked about that a little bit in Unit 2. It's going to have hydrophobic and hydrophilic portions, and it's water resistant so that your cell membrane doesn't dissolve and your cell can remain intact. All right, here's a picture, a cross section of the cell membrane. You guys can see the glycerol heads and then the two fatty acid tails here. And these are some of the channels, the things that let things in and out of the cell. This is like the outer surface of the cell, the inner surface of the cell. So this is the phospholipid bilayer, or the cell membrane. Now, cell wall, it only exists in plant cells, and there's also a similar cell wall that exists in prokaryotic bacteria. But remember, for this, we're kind of just talking about eukaryotic cells. Helps to provide support and protection, regulates water pressure. It's always outside the cell membrane, and it's made up of a carb that we call cellulose. So that's a very like large, tough, complex carb. Okay, your nucleus. So now we know the outside of the cell. Now let's start on the inside and work our way out. The nucleus is the control center of your cell. It contains the DNA. Now DNA is like blueprint or directions for your cell. So the nucleus, if you think of the cell as a school, okay, I'm just going to kind of do a little analogy here. If you think of the school as a cell, then what is the thing in the school that controls or has all the information for it? Think like the central office, okay, the main office that contains all the information for the school, if the school were a cell. Okay, and DNA does the same thing for us. It's a blueprint for who we are, and all of our cells contain all the information that we need to create, a human being. So that's what the nucleus does, it's the control center of the cell. Now, it doesn't always exist right in the middle. It'll be floating around, and you guys will see in lab a nucleus, especially in your onion and cheek cells. It might be in different places, but it doesn't have to be smack dab in the center. It's not like the nucleus of your atom in your Bohr model, okay? Okay, nuclear envelope. So this is like a picture of just a nucleus right here, okay? The nuclear envelope is the membrane on the outside of the nucleus that lets things in and out. Oops, sorry, forward again. Nuclear envelope lets things in and out. It looks kind of like a golf ball, but instead of little dents, it has pores. It covers the nucleus and it lets things in and out. Specifically, it's going to let information that's read from this DNA, these chromosomes, out into the cell so we can use it. Okay, nucleolus is inside the nucleus. Okay, now this again is a picture of just the nucleus, and inside is the nucleolus. And the nucleolus makes what we call ribosomes. Okay, so think of, again, if the school is a cell, our analogy, the nucleus is like the main office. So who's in charge of the main office? The nucleolus is in charge of the nucleus. So who's in charge of the main office? You could think, Mr. French or any one of our principals is the boss of that office, okay? The nucleolus makes ribosomes, and ribosomes are what make everything happen in your cell, okay? Everything that's happening in your cell revolves around ribosomes. And so that means that you guys, students, would be the ribosomes, because if you know, the school were a cell, school revolves around students, cells revolve around ribosomes. Okay, now chromosomes, genetic information that you find inside the nucleus. So here we have a picture of the nucleus. It doesn't have a little nucleolus, but that's so we can make room for chromosomes. The chromosomes are information, again, your DNA, it's all wrapped around a little protein called a histone. It's kind of like a, think of like a roll of toilet paper, and I'll explain that to you guys in just a second, okay? So genetic information inside the nucleus are your chromosomes, okay? And every living thing has a specific number of chromosomes. Okay, now chromatin. Chromatin is your genetic information. So think of chromatin, if the school were a cell, think of chromatin like it's all the files that are in the main office. Okay, remember the nucleus is our main office. Nucleolus is in charge of the main office. It's Mr. French. The chromatin would be like, you know, maybe all the student files, all the school files. Helps us to tell all the information that we need. So chromatin is your DNA, your directions wrapped around a protein, and it helps to form chromosomes when the cell divides. Sometimes I also think of it like chromatin's almost like toilet paper wrapped around a toilet paper roll. It's a whole bunch of information all wrapped up into one little place. And now ribosomes. So we're out of the nucleus now, okay, we're out of the main office. In here is where the directions come, and in the nucleolus we make ribosomes, and ribosomes help us to assemble or synthesize proteins. They are the most numerous organelle in your cell. Remember, they are everything that goes on in the cell. Proteins help to build, they help to digest, they help to break things down, they help to repair, so ribosomes are very important. So if the school were a cell, you guys would be the ribosomes. Woo! You're the most important part of the school. Ribosomes are the most important part of the cell. Okay, now cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is all the material inside the membrane, between the membrane and the nucleus. So this is where all the chemical reactions take place in our cells. So cellular respiration, photosynthesis, digestion, all that kind of stuff happens in the cytoplasm. Think of the cytoplasm almost like, it's kind of like the gel that everything's sort of floating around in. So all your organelles float around in the cytoplasm. Okay. If the school were a cell, the cytoplasm you could think of as, you know, all the space that the students exist in outside of the main office, like all, you know, the floors, all the air that we breathe in, all the space in the school that we take up. Because remember, you guys are my ribosomes. And you guys, that is the end of video 2A, Unit 3, video 2A, eukaryotic cells.